Hello and welcome to Mason Speaks. My name is Mason and today I'm with Mr. Lyndon Wood. Lyndon is a businessman and online real talker. Lyndon, how are you today?
Yes, fine. Thank you, Mason. Thank you for having me on.
No problem. Thank you for being here. Obviously, as we spoke about beforehand, this is my first podcast that I'm doing, and hopefully we'll get off to a flying start. And
Yeah,
yeah, like I said, I'm hoping this can be as natural and as free flowing as we can, just a conversation between two people, and hopefully anyone listening will enjoy it.
excellent. No, that's yeah, be good. Let's get into it, Mason. It'd be all good. Awesome.
Perfect. And like I said, with it keeping free flowing in mind, I've got some sort of topics to bring up, but
Yeah,
not a question as per se, but we just sort of talk about it.
yeah.
Starting business wise, obviously you started young, as you mentioned. Your first business you created was 19. Um, was that your first attempt of creating a business, or had you done anything before that?
No, actually, my first business was 16.
Oh, 16.
And yeah, and the government had a scheme called Youth in Business, and I know many people understand the YTS scheme, but this was a new initiative called Youth in Business (YIB), and that was to educate youngsters in how to do business, how to write a business plan, all those sort of boring topics. And mine was buying and selling sportswear, trainers, and this kind of thing. And I was the first individual to have received £1,000 grant, which was a lot of money back then, to go and buy my first amount of stock. So it was an interesting one. So I was buying sportswear from a warehouse, put it in my rucksack and selling it off the back of a 125 motorbike like a gypsy around the pubs.
Wow, wonderful! What a way to start it off. I think I had heard about that. You did an interview with Rich Topia, didn't you? And that you'd mentioned that was back in 2017, if I'm right.
That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so starting young, if you can ever define it, is starting as soon as you can, and presumably 16 was the probably the starting age, or when it sort of came about anyway. So that's the earliest opportunity
Yeah,
you really would have had to go for
yeah.
anything like that. And how long
No,
did
that's right.
how long did you do that for?
I think I did it for about, I can't remember, but I think it was about a year, about 12 months. And for some reason, it then fizzled out. And I don't even know why it fizzled out and why I stopped, because I think that could have been a big business. I was selling, I was making money. It was not loads, but I was making money enough to pay myself. And then for some reason I stopped, and I don't know why. I can never understand why I did. And then I
Perhaps
took
the
just,
so perhaps the
yeah.
motorbike broke down.
Well, actually, it might have been a contribution thing because it got stolen.
Oh, really?
And it got stolen twice. So it was maybe my motivation went because I lost my transport. I don't know. But yeah, so and from there I did a bit of catering college for 9 months. Got bored of that. Worked in Tesco's. My bosses were the shelf stackers, so I had to fill up a trolley and take products to them so they could put it on the shelves. I did that for a while, got fed up of that. I'm just in and out of jobs like a yo-yo, it's they wouldn't last any more than a couple of weeks, really.
Oh, okay, I'm with you. Now, there's a lot of people who sort of go through that kind of process, like you have as well, that are sort of in and
Yeah,
out of jobs. Myself, I wasn't exactly in and out of jobs within weeks, but I've definitely done a few different things. For example, I was a
yeah,
labourer on a building site for about a week. Couldn't do that.
no,
Really wasn't my
done
cup of
that one.
tea.
Yeah,
I've worked in IT. That was the longest thing I've been with. I did that for about 9 months and then went to a different company and did the same thing.
yeah.
Um, Currently I'm working for a council. I won't go into exactly what I do there, just for fear of online hate. But I work for a council, and we'll leave it at that. Um,
Right.
yeah, but like I say, lots of people go through that sort of process. What would you say it was that sort of flipped you from being in and out of jobs to having something that you just
Yeah.
worked on, solely? Would
Well,
that be would that be the business that you created?
yeah, yes, the business that still trades now, 30 years on. And it's, I think the switch was not the case of I didn't like a boss. That didn't go through my head, but I always wanted my own business, probably because I liked the thought of having my own business. Yeah. So my thoughts were never around, I want to be a millionaire. I want to make loads of money. My focus was never on the money. my focus has always been on just being good at what I do, and now I phrase it, being world class. So if you strive to be the best at what you do, the money naturally sort of follows, to be fair. So my focus was never on the money, even though I was skint breasting and had no money. It was never about making money. And so I set the company up when I was 19. The main driver was independence, do my own thing. And then it evolves quite quickly after that. I could never be employed now. And it's understanding that you don't want to be part of the system. You want to be the system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so you don't want that humdrum of 9 o'clock till 5 o'clock. You can have lunch at 12 o'clock for an hour. You can have so many days holiday. That's the system. So, and not everybody's built for it. A lot of people, an awful lot of people are built for the system. That's what they want. That's what they like. They like the comfort of it. They like the security of it, and the rest. But there are some people, sounds like yourself, that actually want to do something different, something themselves.
Yeah, totally. And I think that idea of this system, as you say, is there a way that the people or that the economy or whoever it may be, the society, can they change that, or is that something that's now ingrained into British or global sort of work life?
Yeah.
Is that just the
Well,
way it is now?
I think in your kind of age bracket, it's definitely more entrepreneurial, that in the moment of now, not in the moment of a month or tomorrow or next week. It's in the moment of now, and you want your own freedom, you want your own ideas to come out. You don't want to be part of the system, and even academia, degrees and all the rest of it, and that's all good and well, but even they struggle for jobs.
Yeah, they do. I mean,
Yeah,
personally, I didn't. I went to college for about a term, so about sort of 12 weeks. And I thought, no, this really isn't for me. And
yeah,
I left and got into an apprenticeship, getting a £3.90 an hour, I think it was, which obviously in
painful.
it makes you question what's the point in going to work, because you're thinking, I'm going to go to work today, going to work 8 hours, and I'll get between 20 and 30 pounds, and you think, is it worth it? Then when you've got at the end of the month, you got bills to pay and things like that, which eventually
Yeah,
caused me to have to
yeah,
find a job elsewhere. But that idea that people, especially people sort of in the youth bracket, if you like, sort of
yeah.
16, 17, 18 up to maybe 25, 30, they can change the system and change how things are running at the moment. Would you agree? Or
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, there's a fresh mindset, and I think given technology of today, and given where certainly at the moment the economics are heading and going quite rapidly, you have to adjust the way you view the world, and viewing the world is naturally more digital, and it always has been, but it's been speeded up through the current climate. But again, it's not for everybody. Some people like the comfort, and in my day, and I sound like I'm 90 years of age, I'm not, but back in my day, if you said to your parents, I'm going to open up my own business, they'd usually discourage you. They'd usually go, oh no, you need to get a job, you need to do this, and you need to fill your pension, and you need to have that security and the rest of it. And whereas today now, if a youngster says, I'm going to have my own business, the parent usually says, what do you want to do? And they try and help a little bit more.
yeah, I totally agree
Yeah.
with that.
And whilst they know they've got to fund you for a little bit longer because you're trying to get something going, as a parent of four myself, you do tend to look at them and say, good on you,
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the idea that someone can, from nothing, if you like, create something that can be globally or nationally massive is I guess
Yeah.
that's the idea of free marketing, and anyone can do it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
With yourself, when you first started off with the constructor quote, that's the one,
Yeah,
isn't it?
that's it.
Yeah.
Constructorcode.com.
When you first started off with that, did you have any help from anyone else, or was that all self-funded and self-fulfilling?
No, the entire company is self-funded, and in the early days, it was the usual struggle. It was pre-internet. Again, I sound like I'm 90. but it was pre-internet, pre-Google. In fact, I think the internet and that came out about 12 months later, roughly.
Okay.
My first computer cost me £3,500, and that's a lot of money today.
Yeah.
Never mind 30 years ago. And yeah, it was that kind of environment, really. So I was every Yellow Pages in the country. I don't think many youngsters know what the Yellow Pages even is now. But every Yellow Pages in the country, writing on envelopes, posting out direct mail, you know, in the hundreds or thousands. And that was how I did business on the telephone.
Yeah, I mean, you say about youngsters not knowing what the Yellow Pages are. I obviously I know of it. It's the book that used to arrive on our doorstep every so often, and it's more used as a coaster than anything else nowadays, I believe.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
or a stand for a laptop if it's not quite high enough, I think.
Yeah. Well, actually, I've got my iPad on books right now. It's I could do the Yellow Pages.
Yeah, that would be helpful. A nice sturdy book there.
Yeah, that's right.
Lovely. You said about with the constructor quote that you'd started off pre-internet, and obviously about 12 months later or so it sort of came out. Did you manage to adjust pretty quickly to the internet coming out, or was that not something that you?
Yeah, I was a very early adopter. I mean, the business has been going 30 years. Constructorquote.com has been going as a full online quote and buy system for tradesmen and small businesses. That's been going about 14 years. So I was trading. So I've been trading 15, 16 years without a transactional kind of site, you know, or platform. And now we're very technology led. Whereas for that first 15 odd years, I put money into different building. My first website cost me £20,000, and I thought it was going to go live and earn me a fortune overnight, because it was all the .com billionaire kind of things in the 80s and so on. And I just thought it was going in the 90s, sorry, and I just thought it was going to make me a fortune. And it went live and nothing happened, because internet marketing was new. I didn't know anything about internet marketing or any of that. I just thought once the website goes live, I'm going to get flooded with inquiries. So £20,000 in, and sort of 8 months building to getting this thing built, and then nothing happened.
Oh no. And that's obviously one of the challenges that a lot of people face nowadays as well, with trying to generate that traffic towards their idea. You know, people have these brilliant ideas, but sometimes they can't get the traffic or the excitement from the public or from the people that they want to interact with it to their website or whatever it may be. And that can be a real struggle and a hindrance more than anything for a lot of business startups and anyone who's trying to make something for themselves, because obviously it's all online now, it's all digital. So how did you get the traffic to your website? How did you get it started?
Yeah, well, you have to understand metrics first. So you have to understand your return. You have to be a marketeer by nature. And you can teach yourself that, you know, lots of marketing skills and strategies. But you need to understand the digital world and how that works. You need to understand the market. It sounds complicated, but it's not. It's dead easy. Understand the market that you're in and how competitive that is online in the digital form, if you're a digital business, that is. And then you test with a small budget, maybe things like AdWords or pay-per-click, and you get your metrics right. Now, a lot of people miss the metrics. It's why still, even now, many people cannot make pay-per-click work, because they do not understand how to implement it and how to measure it. Yeah. So, yeah.
Sorry, when you say metrics, do you mean sort of specifically who you're targeting, that kind of thing, or is it more than that?
Yeah, well, it's from who you're targeting through to your conversion rates. So how many people come to your site, how many people buy your product or partly complete your form, and how much did that cost you, and what income did you get? Yeah. So before you embark on any of that marketing, make sure you're able to measure those metrics, because then when you see something working, you scale and you invest more and more and more and more. I started with a £500 a month budget in AdWords. Yeah. We now invest £170,000 a month.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's a big
So,
difference.
oh yeah, you go from 500 to 2,000 to 10,000 to 30,000 to 50,000 to 100 and to 170. Yeah, because when you know your metrics and you see it working, you scale it, you invest in it.
Mm.
You know, if you bought a pen for 10 pence and sold it to me for 20 pence, you go, I'm now going to buy 2 pens. And then if you sell those quickly to 2 people, I'm now going to buy 4 pens or 5 pens. You see what I mean? So it's that's how you scale.
You
People
start
stop.
small and get bigger.
Yeah, but people stop. They go, I'll buy 1 pen, I sold it, oh, I've got profit. Oh, I'll buy a car, or I'll spend the profit. And then but I'll buy another 1 pen. And then they never grow. Yeah.
Yeah. So as we sort of spoke about, metrics and that kind of thing, and you'd mentioned about the AdWords, that you now spend splendid amount of money, if you like, on the ads themselves. I mean, you could say that the money that you spend on the ads themselves is more than some companies, a lot of companies, would sort of generate in a year. And that's how much you're spending per month on ads. And so how much does that sort of the ability that you now have to spend that amount, obviously through all the hard work and the scaling, as you'd mentioned, how much does that impact now what you can do? Obviously, starting with £500, that wouldn't have reached or got as much interaction as obviously the 170,000 as you now mentioned. How much easier is it now to generate new people to inquire with the company?
Well, we work on a cost per click basis. So we know what that cost for a click is, and then we know what the customer acquisition cost is. So for every 1 click, you might get 5 going through to get a full quote. And then out of the 5, you convert 1 or 2 into a sale at an income of X. Yeah. And that's just the basic sort of metrics. The real art is in just setting up those campaigns in the first place so it becomes visible on Google. But you're basically paying for customers at that point. You're buying them in, yeah? And that's really the metric. So from a business point, it's just understanding how to, or when to scale. So you have to see the opportunity, test, measure, and that can be done very quickly in the digital world. It can take a day, 2 days, 3 days, or a week. You budget, test, measure, scale. Yeah. Or you budget, you test, measure, refine, scale.
That's a good quote for anyone looking to start something new, anyone looking to better themselves or the society. That is a good way to live by in that sense, especially the when you added the refine, always making it better rather than staying with the same process. If you can make it better, it works better.
No, that's right. And actually change the vocabulary and the dialogue that you use with yourself as well. So when you use the word spend, change that to invest. Okay, because it triggers a different psychology.
That mindset that you need to have to be a success.
When you are spending, it means it's costing you something. When you are investing, it means I'm investing because I want a return on that, or I'm expecting a return. Yeah. So the mindset of a lot of people are, I'm spending on this, I'm spending on that. Now, I spend on my business rates, for example. Yeah. But I invest in pay-per-click. I invest in my people, my staff and employees and managers. I invest in them. Yeah. Because when I invest in something, I'm expecting some form of return. I can't get a return from paying business rates. Apart from that, it's the building there and I got to pay the government rates. Yeah. But when I invest, I expect a return.
And that's the difference between having a mindset of someone who might make a business and it might be okay, and someone who has a business running 30 years on and counting, and it works really well. And that's one of the main things I would think has helped set you apart and helped you be unique and stand out.
Yeah. And you know what? I don't do any of this, Mason, for ego. And we've all got a bit of ego. You have to have some ego, especially when you're in business. You've got to you've got to enjoy the people saying, oh, well done. You've got to enjoy the round of applause when you're on stage. We've all got some ego, but and there's many big business people with, silly amounts of ego. But you have to eliminate as much of that ego as you can, because it's about doing the right thing for the right reasons. Yeah. And if you fall into the trap of ego building, you can make very wrong decisions just because it makes you feel big and mighty and good. Yeah. But it's not necessarily the right decision.
So would you say that someone building a company, building an idea for the wrong reasons, for example, building it to serve a purpose of I need money, or the purpose of I want to be famous, I want to do this, I want to do that, but for the wrong reasons, can that be a real big downfall in the startup, in the creation, in the prolongment of creating a business?
Yeah, I mean, it can be. There's nothing wrong with a degree of focus on money, because we all need money to live. It's part of the life and part of the transaction. I believe money is evil, but I like what you can do with money. And you can do a lot of good, you can do a lot of harm. I don't like the harm bit, but you can do a lot of good with money, and you get to build things with it, because that's the way life is and the world is. So focusing on money is okay, but don't focus on it to the point of desperation. Because when you become desperate, then you start making silly decisions. Yeah, you start becoming irrational.
Yeah, totally. Obviously, if your focus is only on the money, that's the difference. I guess it's a difference between greed, if you like, and bettering oneself or bettering those around you. It depends what your intentions are as well with said money. If the idea is only just to get more and more money and never do anything with it, then the chances are you might not be as happy as you're hoping for. If you're just amounting it and hoarding it, then what good is it serving you? Is the question you have to ask yourself, I'd say.
No, that's right. You should always invest your capital. Always invest it.
Because there's no good just sitting there, is it? If you can't do anything with it, or it's not increasing itself, it's no good. Inflation as it is at the moment, obviously, £1,000 now in 10 years might be worth £500 as it is today.
No, that's right, and it's good that you understand that at your age, because many don't. Many 30, 40, 50-year-olds do not understand that money goes backwards when it's in your bank account. Yeah. So always leave yourself a little surplus, but invest as much as you can. Now, whether that is investing in, and this isn't advice by a long shot, I'm just saying what I do. But investing in, whether it's digital currency or cryptocurrencies, whether it's the stock market and equities, whether it's investing in a business, or whether it's put money into gold. There's a whole range of things you can do to build wealth. It hasn't got to be about building a business and employing 1,000 people. Actually, those days are sort of gone. This is more about keeping a business lean, mean, and a money-making machine. There you go.
Lovely.
But just made that up, actually. I wasn't bad.
That's pretty good, that is. That's pretty good. We might have to quote that on Twitter a little bit later on.
Yeah.
So with that idea of investing it and not keeping it sat in one place, not doing anything, and you mentioned about cryptocurrencies, obviously very prevalent at the moment. I'm sure you've been keeping up to date with it. Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Obviously, it surged recently to over sort of $30,000 for one Bitcoin. Not obviously asking for any details on it at all, but have you delved into any sort of Bitcoin investment, or could you not say?
Yeah. No, I've delved into Bitcoin, so I hold some Bitcoin. In fact, it hit over $36,000 this morning.
What was that, sorry?
It hit over $36,000 this morning.
Oh my gosh, I hadn't seen that one. I seen it the other day where it had gone past 30.
And JP Morgan announced that they can see Bitcoin going to $146,000 over the long term.
Oh wow.
And they're saying it could outperform gold. I mean, who knows? It's a strange world where anything can happen, including alien invasions. So and you know what, Mason, at the moment, if aliens came sort of outside my window by here now, I just shrug my shoulders and say, yes, it's 2020 rolling to 2021, so it's expected.
Yeah, it definitely wouldn't be the strangest thing to happen this year, I could tell you that for now.
Well, I wouldn't run, put it that way, just go out, coming in for coffee or something.
Yeah, do what you're gonna do and then head back.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
But I suppose with Brexit, they might not be able to get through the borders anymore.
No, that's right.
Anyway, swiftly moving on from Brexit, I think that could spark some debate.
Yeah.
sort of more towards a personal side of you rather than just business. Obviously, you are a person. You're not just a businessman. You have a personal life.
Yeah.
In that sort of personal life, not getting too into detail about it, but what would you say is your greatest ambition personally, rather than as a business?
You know what? It sounds a bit of a cliche, but I alluded to this earlier on, I said this earlier on, I believe I have an obligation to share what I've become to understand. Now, over my young life, my 30 years in business, written a business book, I'm halfway through writing the philosophy book. I co-wrote a horse racing book when I was 22. Not many people know about that one. Then that's what I generally enjoy doing. So assisting, young guys like you to try and do things and encourage you to do more and more, but actually passing what I've become to understand on, so that you can avoid as many pitfalls as possible and actually hit that journey in the right manner quicker. Yeah. Philanthropy, I've done plenty of that in the past, from funding science on preventative stem cell research for cancer, through to buying thousands of pounds worth of toys for children with nothing. And you're probably one of the only ones to hear that on certainly on a podcast or video cast, because they're the sort of things you don't really publicize, because you do it because it's the right thing, not because you want PR out of it, and yeah, so I'd like to do a lot more of that, but my life is consumed right now with the current climate, navigating business through the current climate, and raising awareness.
Perfect. I mean, that's probably the best answer anyone could have asked for. Very in depth, and it's right without giving back. What is it? Is it worth? What is the success worth if you can't give back and help others? And I think the idea that of obviously these things that you've done, and I'm sure there's more things that you've done which you wouldn't mention, because it's like you say, it's not about getting the press and the reputation for it. It's about doing it because it's right. And I think a lot of people, perhaps the online influencers, perhaps the younger generation, do things with the idea, perhaps not all malice, if you like, but do things with the idea, oh, if I do this, I'll get views, I'll get likes, people will like me for that. And obviously, not to say that that's a quote bad thing, but it's perhaps not doing it with the best intentions possible.
Yeah, that's right. At the end of it, we're dealing with other people, other human beings, so if you're just aiming to do the right thing, or say the right thing, or whatever you're doing, people will naturally follow you. If you're either a leader or a follower, and there's nothing wrong with being one or the other, but some people are naturally believe in their conviction, believe in their experiences, and they exhale that energy of that belief, and then people follow them because they actually are looking for that guidance and that leadership. They want to believe in something. They're not quite sure what they're looking for. Many people are lost, particularly at the moment. There are many people lost, and they're looking for someone to take the lead. So again, doing things for the right reasons. I share for the right reasons. I do this podcast for the right reasons. Yeah, I get, okay, there's a bit of promotion for my company in it, but you're doing it because you're a young guy starting off and I wanted to do it. Yeah,
I mean, well, the idea that, like you said, about there's some promotion for your company, I think it goes to say that it's obviously that would help, but that would be nice if it comes from it. But obviously, this is the first one, so that possibly won't come. And the idea that you're still happy to do that is, it really sums you up as a person, that you're not just in it for self gain, but there to
correct. No, thank you.
That's all right. It's only the truth from what I've I learned from you in this very short space of time that we've been talking. And like I say, it really does show, and give credit to yourself for that, because there's not everyone would do that. People do things, rightly or wrongly, for self gain, and obviously you have to do some things for self gain, because if you didn't, then you wouldn't get into the places where you get into. You have to, like you said, give a bit of ego, because it's what you need in a world like this.
Yeah, and people mix up ego with confidence as well. So my confidence comes from my belief system, because I've struggled through many things, as many people have. I'm not unique in that alone. But people have suffered in many things. I've suffered in many things in my life. Lots of downs, you know, lots of ups and more downs, and you think you've made it, then you haven't, and so on. So when you have that intuition and that belief that when I hit rock bottom, I have got out of it many times over 30 years in business and during my life. So therefore, I believe in my conviction. I believe that when I'm rock bottom, I will get out of it. I believe I will not get sick because I live my life healthy. And that's my belief system. Yeah, I will not get cancer. I will not get sick. That's my belief system. Yeah. Now that can come across as ego, but it's not ego. It's my belief system. It's my confidence. Yeah, because that's what I believe. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. The idea of sort of in your own mind having the mindset that things are going to go well, things are going to get better, can be really important, especially with, like you say, the current climate. People are very more frequently now than ever before, I'd say, getting sort of down and in their thoughts and getting depressed and anxious and any or the other sort of negative emotion that you can think of because of, you know, this current climate. And the idea that having that positive mindset, albeit hard to do, and you know, I know you know how hard it is to put yourself in that positive mindset. Everyone, like you said, everyone goes through things, but the idea that if you can work yourself into that positive mindset, things will ultimately get better. Is I think
Yeah.
really, really nice for everyone to believe. And you know, it and with, like you say, with, it's not ego, it's confidence and it's self-preservation. If you believe that you can get better, things will get better, and it's not the end of the world, and it's a lifesaver, quite literally, in some respects.
Yeah, no, that's right. But when people talk of positive mindset and negative mindset and hang around positive people and do all of this, what they miss is the fact that you need negative to know what positive looks like. All right. So trying to eliminate negativity and bad things from your life is actually the wrong thing to do. The right thing to do is live. The right thing to understand is that we are experiencing life and we are transacting with life. Everything we do is a transaction. We are experiencing life. So you can go to your grave and you can say, I've experienced all there is to experience in my life. I'm ready. Or you can go to your grave and say, I experienced soaps and movies and my living room.
And
yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah, so you need negative to know what positive looks like. You need white to know what black looks like, and vice versa.
Yin and yang.
Yeah, it is yin and yang. Yeah, and balance is a bit of a cliche, but so when people say have a positive mindset, you can't tell someone to have a positive mindset. What you can say is go and experience life. Right. So the more you make an issue out of something, oh, I'm sick, oh, I've got a headache, or this, or that, or whatever, then it becomes an issue. It's self-fulfilling prophecy. So what we need to be doing is just experience life. If you want to set up a business, go set up a business. Don't make it an issue. If you want to, and I've never been a smoker, so forgive me, smokers, for this one. But if you're a smoker and you want to give up, give up. Don't make it an issue. Don't buy them anymore. Go through the barrier as part of experiencing life and come out the other side. Yeah, so don't make it an issue. Don't make it a thing, because when it becomes a thing, it becomes self-fulfilling.
And it becomes harder than necessary, I'd say.
And not completely. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It becomes a thing, becomes a talking point. Just live, just experience life.
This sort of mindset that you've got makes me think that it's probably come a lot from something. You know, is something's caused you to have this mindset. Would you say that perhaps the background that you've got in mixed martial arts has helped with that?
Yeah, I mean, I started, when did I start martial art? Kung Fu, called Feng Sao, Hand of the Wind, back when I was 12 and a half, 13. And that came from going to a new school. I moved from England to Wales, Welsh parents and the rest of it. I moved to a new school. It was an all-boys school, and I got offered 6 fights in my first day, and it scared the crap out of me. Yeah. And then the hard knock of the school, who was a loner, I was very much a loner, very very insular as a kid, came up to me and said, "There's kung fu down in the local village there. Do you want to come and join with me?" Yeah, so that was really interesting because he was the hard knock of the school, but he was also a loner. But if someone tried to bully him, he just punch him, that kind of thing. And he was my training partner for 6-7 years.
Oh wow. Do you still have contact with him now, or is that relationship sort of fizzled out?
No, I lost touch because then life has its twists and turns, and lost touch. But 6 or 7 years with my training partner. So yeah, I did kung fu, I did taekwondo, I've done judo, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, boxing, Muay Thai, a little bit of Krav Maga. So you sort of do all the different arts. But in sort of direct answer to your question, yes, martial arts changed my life. It changed my confidence, and it changed the way I view the world. And that is an ever evolving mindset. Yeah.
I do have some, not a lot, a very small amount of experience with the, they said martial arts. I did it when I was much younger. I was probably, well, I say much younger, it wasn't that long ago. So when I was probably sort of around the age of 10, I did it for a few years. And I did karate. It was Tobi Ishikai was the sort of more individual section of it. And you're very right in what you say when you say that the martial arts can have that effect on you, because it's not just about how to defend yourself or how to put up a fight. It's much more than that. It's more about the principles of life, the principles of which to live by, and how to be a good person, because that's very much ingrained into, well, at least with the martial arts that I did, it's very much ingrained with that. I remember one time they sort of sat us down as a group, and this was in the young section of it, and they sort of said, what things can you do to mean that you're polite? What can you do to be polite to people? What is good manners? And they sat us down, and that was part of the session. And that idea of understanding what's right and what's wrong is something very prevalent in martial arts.
Yeah, but I'm also you've got to be in life very open to self-discovery. Yeah, so understanding who I am. Yeah, not who am I. Yeah, there's a difference. Yeah, who I am. And when you ask yourself who I am, it sends you in that discovery mode. Yeah, so what do I like? What do I not like? Do I care about people's opinions? Not really. Do I take on board what they tell me and discover myself more? Absolutely. Do I question myself a lot? Absolutely. But that's part of who I am and my belief system. And the more you are comfortable with who I am, the better and more peaceful you are in your life.
Wonderful stuff. There's only so long that we can go without briefly mentioning it, and we'll talk about it strictly from a business side of it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So obviously the pandemic at the moment, and like I say, strictly business side of it. How is the economy going to recover?
Yeah. Well, firstly, it's not a pandemic, not anymore. And I think that's on the government website. Somebody pointed out the other day that it's declared months ago it's not a pandemic. So this is just the media calling it a pandemic. It's not. Okay. Yeah. So the business side of it, look, it's even in my company, it's had its challenges. In the first 5 weeks, so the end of March to April, we saw our business drop by literally 50%, 50. Wow. So again, we're very digital, very online. And people searching for my products are dropped by half. Bizarrely enough, it matched. It dropped by half online. People looking for the products, and therefore half in the business. Then we did the V shape. So at the end of April, very early May, lots of people came back. Lots of people were searching, and business came back more than before. And that happened for several months and then normalized. So we're back to a normal trading level. Thankfully, we've not lost any jobs. We've been growing, but we're cautious, because nobody knows what's next. Yeah. So when it comes to your business, you have to navigate the current climate, and to understand the current climate, then you have to understand the global reset, and that is the And some people say conspiracy because they don't understand it, they've never read the documents, but it's not a conspiracy, it's happening. The global reset is resetting the financial systems. We will be digital currency probably within the next 12 months. So a cashless society, nothing wrong with that really. And your business has to be more digitally based. And that's why we're seeing things like retailers close down and so on. Had those retailers adopted the digital world a couple of years ago, they'd be in a very different position. But what you have with a lot of retailers is they just didn't adopt it, especially the independent ones. So they do not have a transactional digital form of doing business. They just have the shop front. Yeah. And if I was to advise anybody right now, if you have had a £10,000 grant or some furlough money or whatever, and you have a business model that is now closed, digitize it, invest the money into doing something. Yeah, because that's what's going to get you through it. And when you understand the global economics, whether it's a stock market, whether it's gold price or cryptocurrency, American politics right now, politics globally, you start absorbing this information, then you can position yourself quite smartly for the future.
Would you say that the what's going on with the digitalization of almost everything? I mean, for however many years now, more than anyone could probably remember, for example, taxes, they've been able to be paid through paper forms, if you like, through you'd fill out forms and that kind of thing. Obviously there's the new government initiative that people are sort of getting more aware about, is they're making tax digital. And and I believe, I could be wrong on it, so don't quote me, but I believe that there's sort of an idea that if you can't make the tax digital, if you can't do it online, you can get sort of fined for it, and there's all sort of a negative repercussion of not doing it digitally. Would you say that's a way of perhaps the government or whoever trying to belittle, or not belittle, sort of phase out, punish or phase out the smaller independent businesses that's, for example, say a luggage shop, or a shop that sells suitcases. If they have no interest, the person running it perhaps have been doing it for 40 or 50 years, they have no interest or no knowledge of how to do it online. Would you say it's a way of trying to fizzle them out and stop them from being no,
I think we, naturally I'm a suspicious character anyway of everything, not just government initiatives, but I'm suspicious of lots of things, but suspicious in the right way. It's curiosity mixed with suspicion. So you have to ask lots of questions, and it's easy to point the finger and go, are they doing this to control? Are they doing this for whatever? And there can be a degree of that as well. I don't believe it's done with malicious intent. I believe digitizing, like any business, is to streamline functions and to make things faster, quicker, better, and more efficient. Yeah. And there's a lot of that going on right now. And that's a good thing. And if you want to throw in the eco-friendly, whether you believe climate change or not, if you want to throw in the eco-friendly part, that's a plus. So the small business that sells suitcases for 40, 50 years analogy, if they can't use a computer to file their taxes, then their bookkeeper or accountant can. Yeah.
And
so
that not only grows the economy, but creates, jobs and that kind of thing. If they can't do it and someone else is going to do it for them, then it could be seen as a positive.
Well, yeah, you do that, and they might go, but that's extra cost. Well, actually, no, because what you should be doing is speaking to your accountant or your bookkeeper and saying, actually, now digitization is in, my cost should be less because you haven't got to do all that paperwork. So instead, can you just file digitally, please? So don't try and hike my cost up because, I've got to do this digital, so it's more money. It's not. It's actually less work for you as a bookkeeper or an accountant. So if anything, you should be negotiating a better price.
Perfect. The sort of moving on from the business necessarily side of it. Obviously, you're quite a influential, if you would, person on the internet, specifically Twitter. Obviously, you've got quite a number of followers there. You've got the verified tick as well.
Yeah, for now until they ban me, but yeah.
Yeah. So for now, you've got the verified tick. We'll see how long that lasts, shall we? But it's obviously at the moment, and in the last few years, with a lot of things that have been going on, obviously, and very rightly so, people being called out for things that happened in the past. However, it has brought about something called, people are referring to it as a cancel culture. Have you
Yeah.
sort of heard of that? Are you aware of the
Yeah,
cancel culture?
yeah. And this is driven by the current climate. So since March, where people have become insecure about different things, so they cancel and then reorder and then cancel again and then 2 months later reorder. So it becomes embedded in the mindset, and the more and more free returns, refunds, no quibble guarantees, and all of this that has always sort of gone on. It's become right to the front now because people have realized that they can do this stuff. And the easier businesses make it for consumers to cancel or return, the more it will happen. And on top of that, you bring forward the digital economy, which is what's been happening. It just becomes one click and I can get my money back, or one click and I can cancel. So yeah, it does exist. It is a thing.
Yeah, I mean that one that you mentioned now, that definition of cancel culture isn't actually the one I was referring to. It's not something
Right.
that I'd heard of, but that's very interesting, a very prevalent point as well. What I when I referred to cancel culture, I was sort of intending to talk about the idea that someone has released a tweet. Then 9 years later, someone has found the tweet. A famous person. For example, the Kevin Hart incident. I don't know if you're aware of that, where he was supposedly going to do the Oscars.
Oh yeah.
And then obviously they found this tweet from 10 or so years ago, and then
he has to apologize.
And then they cancelled him, and they didn't let him do the Oscars, and his career sort of took a hit.
Yeah.
Obviously that's where I'm coming from on this. Obviously you're an influencer online. You've got this Twitter following. Is that something that people, the everyday person, should be worried about? Are you aware of that kind of side of it?
Look, I don't do it for the ego. So the blue tick is there. Great, fantastic. I've been on Twitter since 2009. My Lyndon X account has been there. What's that now? That's 12 years, I think. So I've got 86,000 or something followers, which is all great. Again, a little bit of ego in there. A proportion of that will be old followers from 2009 that may be no longer online or something. I've gained a silly amount of followers since all of the current climate because I'm very outspoken by it, because I don't understand. I'm quite logical and practical, so I look at the narrative and I look at the numbers and they just don't match. So I'll say they don't match, and I'll research and I'll say why I feel they don't match. Belief system again. But you know what? If Twitter cancelled my account, I'd probably have a more peaceful life. Yeah. So that's how I look at it. Yeah. It is unfair of 10-year-old tweets or 10-year-old something being brought up with celebrities and so on, and making them apologize for it. Because you know what happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago, even 2 years ago, but never mind 10, 20 years ago, it's a different culture back then.
Yeah,
totally. And you can compare it to smoking on airplanes used to be okay. So are we going to make the airlines apologize for allowing people to smoke in airplanes 20, 30 years ago?
No, of course not. No, definitely not. So.
No, because that was the culture. That's what people did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have we made the tobacco companies apologize and say smoking was healthy back in the 60s and 70s and whatever? Are we going to make them apologize? No, and we haven't. Because they're not going to come out and say, apologize, we sold these as healthy. Adverts on television saying smoking is good for you. Yeah. And it turns out it kills people. Have they apologized? No, they haven't.
And I think we can agree that obviously the idea that these smoking companies have said these different things, and obviously possibly not maliciously, but they've said these different things in the past, is obviously has had more of an impact than someone releasing
millions.
Yeah, than someone releasing a tweet and having to apologize for it. It's just different ways of thinking about different things, and I think it's led by the younger generation. This cancel culture, I think personally, it could be really damaging. I think obviously it serves a purpose in some ways. I won't go into details with specific people. I don't want to name call anyone, but certain people have been called out for doing certain things that they shouldn't have done, and they have, perhaps rightly so, been questioned about it, or sometimes even further, criminally, sort of that kind of thing. There is a damaging effect to people, young people, and people who are more experienced, that this cancel culture is having on them, and people are worried, I'd say, that is there a tweet or is there something that they said 10 years ago that they've forgotten about with no malice or bad intentions at
Yeah,
all?
yeah.
Is it going to come back to bite them? And I think that's
all I can say is, Mason, if you rely on your social media for business or relationships or whatever, don't rely on them. And again, through this period we've been going through and still going through, it's become more and more paramount. But I had my Instagram cancelled, my personal Instagram account for no reason. Actually, I was in the middle of posting up some philosophy, and then it disappeared on me. And my personal Instagram account was full of fitness, food I cook, which is healthy, the gymnasium, some philosophy and wisdom in there, and they cancelled it. And all they do is send me terms and conditions. I've not breached any terms and conditions. Now, in that account, I had quite a few connections and business people that only existed in that account, so I've lost them. Yeah.
and that's
so
sorry, carry
but
on.
I've lost all my images, and I used to use it a bit like a library to collect the images and whatever else. I've lost all the images, all the video. I've lost everything. And I've messaged them twice, and all they send me are the terms and conditions. Well, I've not breached them, so can you put my account back? And they still haven't. So that's an example of it makes you vulnerable if you rely on your social media and the content in that social media. And your connections. You have to have a backup plan.
That's the power that these social media companies have, isn't it? They have the power to turn off someone's online life, if you like. They have the power to delete it.
YouTube. I think yesterday before they cancelled the Talk Radio YouTube account.
Oh, right, okay.
It got reinstated yesterday, but the point is they cancelled it for, I think it was about 2 days. Now, no warning, no nothing. They just turned off a business, and that was a big business. So they just turned it off, and that's the danger. So if you're reliant on a channel for exposure and for your business or your life or whatever it might be prepared, because you might breach and not know it.
And it's like that idea of having
a single, get cancelled.
Yeah, it's the idea of having a single point of failure, isn't it? In business, if you have a single point of failure, that can be very, very damning, if you like. And the same applies in your personal or online life. If you've got one single point of failure where everything can fall to pieces, you've perhaps got to reevaluate how you're running things at the minute.
No, absolutely, yeah. And you know what? When you're in business, you do tend to, especially when you're building, you have single points of failure everywhere, because you can't build unless you go through that stage. But as long as you're aware of that, then you can put things in place to combat.
And that's obviously a risk that you have to take in the business world. There are no gains without risk in the business world, I'd say. Obviously, people might say there's an element of luck. I'm not so sure about that myself. I think business in terms of what it is now, it's about risk and return on that risk, but more importantly, not luck, but experience and knowledge and sort of predictions. If you can predict that you can do this and the following events will occur afterwards, that's not luck. And that's being smart. That's being preemptive. That's picking a trend and going with it rather than it being something that, so and so's just earned all this money. That's lucky. That's lucky that they've done that. If they, it's a lucky thing that they've done. It's not a lucky thing.
I'm glad you said that. I don't know if you've read anything of mine in the past, but I'm exactly how you said. I don't believe in luck. I don't even use the word luck. There's a certain vocabulary, and I just don't use. Luck is one of them. So do you buy a lottery ticket to lose, or do you buy it to win?
You buy it to win.
You win, when you win, are you lucky?
Well, I suppose in that sense, no, you're not.
You bought it to win.
Yeah.
I picked those numbers because I bought it to win. So when I won, I'm not lucky. I bought it to win. So the
odds are against you, but it doesn't mean that when your odds come up, it doesn't mean that you're lucky. It means that you've made a risk, you've made a financial risk, and it's paid off.
You understood the risk of 6 million to 1 or something, or even bigger than that. I think that's about 100 million to 1. But you understood the risk. You bought the ticket. You won. I'm not lucky. I understood the risk. Yeah.
it's not like you're going in blind. It's not like you're saying, "Oh, here's £2 for something. I don't know what the risk is. I don't know what I'm going to lose. I don't know what I'm going to get. Here you go. That would
Yeah,
be luck. If someone bought a lottery ticket for you, obviously different story. Then you're a bit lucky because someone's bought it for you. You had no idea, and then you get the
yeah,
money. But that's a
yeah,
different story
yeah.
entirely.
Oh yeah,
Um,
completely.
Following up on what you said about some vocabulary that you don't use, I in this interview that you did a few years back with Richtopia, you'd mentioned that you don't like using the word tips. Is that right? You
Correct.
don't like the idea of somebody giving you a tip for, here's a top tips on how to do this or how to do that. That's obviously not to say that you don't give out advice or anything like that. It's a tip that is saying something, this will work. Perhaps is that the
Yeah,
idea, that because it's not necessarily that it's going to work. Is that the idea
yeah.
why you don't like
So
it? Or?
look, I give again vocabulary. I don't like the words. I think it slips into my own vocabulary sometimes, but I avoid it or I correct it. I don't like the words. I'm not sure. So you never hear me say I'm not sure. You never hear me use the word luck. I'll avoid the word think as much as I can, only because it just trains your brain in a particular way. I don't like that way of the thought process, And if you think about things a lot, then you're just lost in thought, and you're not acting on much. So I avoid certain words because they just are not needed, and I don't want to train my mindset in that manner. And the word tips just sounds, I don't know, 10 top tips. I mean, Jesus, Nelly, do you know what I mean? It just sounds awful. I even cringe thinking about the word. Yeah. What I do inside this, I interrupt again,
That's all
but
right.
that's what I like to give and prefer is guidance. So I don't give advice either. I'm not going to, and the word tell, I don't like the word tell. So I'm telling you, I don't like that. It's like pointing at somebody and poking them in the chest. Yeah. So I share with you. I'm sharing and I'm guiding. I'm not telling and I'm not advising. I'm sharing and guiding. Up to you if you want to use the information I share. That's up to you. Use it, don't use it. It's your life. That's up to you. I'm giving you the benefit of my experience. Yeah.
And I think that's the key point what you said there, is that it's up to the person that you're sharing a guidance with, whether they use it or not. Some
Yeah.
people, they sort of release these books people have seen, and it's like how to make money quick. That's the example. How to get rich online fast, and things like that. And that's that idea that you can read a book and all of a sudden everything there is to know about how to make money, and you can just do it just as easy as that, just like reading a book. And obviously that's fundamentally not true. You can't do that. And the idea that people are advertising that you can is not a great way to live by. I'd say personally.
No. Look, there's no quick money at the end of the day, and I don't believe in passive income either. Things like that, because passive income it makes people feel they can get rich or get money without doing anything. And passive income, and when you see people, I'm going to create some passive income, you just think you're going to put as much time into passive income as you could into a full-time income. So only your full-time income can be 10 times better. Yeah.
Another word that you said that you dislike, I'd heard this, is entrepreneur. Is that right?
Correct.
Now obviously you have been described in the past as an entrepreneur. What would you say is an alternative word for that? What would you describe yourself as?
Look, I just believe in just being. If an entrepreneur is usually something somebody else calls you, I don't mind that so much, but it's not something you should really call yourself, because it's just a bit of ego. I'm an entrepreneur. The best one is I'm a serial entrepreneur. Yeah.
Which means you've had a lot of ideas that haven't worked.
I've got 6 businesses. Yeah, and they're all making £1 each. Do you know what I mean? Or maybe losing money, but you're better off having one empire, one business, and build it properly. Because I'm a believer in your brain space. So everything you do takes up your brain space. Yeah, and whether that is making your breakfast or whether it's having something in your mind about what you want to do, it's taking up your brain space and taking it away from what your core objective is. So Value your brain space. That's a big thing for me. Value your brain space. Do things that positively impact your life. If it doesn't, don't do it.
It's a lovely way to think about things. You know, if you're not doing something for a purpose, is there, you know, why are you doing it? Is there something better you could be doing with that time? Obviously, that's not to say that some things that seem without purpose don't have purpose. You know, for example, if you're saying, you know, oh, that's there's no purpose to sitting down and watching the television for half an hour. It's not to say that that's not true, because obviously there can be that time away from thinking about, you know, all the stresses of the day can be really helpful. Obviously, overdoing it, watching it at all hours of the day and then going to bed at night and not doing much else is a different story. But there is purpose or method in the madness, if you will. For all sorts of things. But when you realize that there's no purpose in what you're doing, you're only doing it because you can, or you're only doing it because there's nothing else to do, is perhaps again time to reevaluate how you're looking at things.
That's it. And when you're in business, there's always something to do. So are you better off spending an hour cleaning your house, or paying someone for an hour so you can spend that hour on building your business? You know, and I think that 10 or 20 quid for that hour to pay someone to clean your house for you, depending on the size of your house, might be 2 hours or 3 hours or more. You are better off spending that time on your business. Not washing your car, not cutting your grass, not cleaning your house. Yeah, because that's stealing your time away.
And that gives a direct representation, if you like, of how much you value your own time. You know, how much should you be earning in that time, in that half an hour, or in that hour or 3 hours that it takes you to clean the car, hoover the carpet, you know, that kind of thing. It's how much do you value your time? How much should you know, how much would you pay someone for that, and how much should you be getting paid if you were doing something else in that time? And obviously it's not available for everyone. Not everyone can sort of do that. People are living, you know, from paycheck to paycheck, and that's how things are going, especially now. You know, that's how a lot of people are living. And obviously it's not to belittle the idea that sort of doing your own chores is, you know, that's a perfectly acceptable and wonderful way of doing things. Some people in fact like it, but you know, if you could, if you're in the position to be able to say, right, I'm going to set aside this money so that somebody else can do that, so I then have the time to focus on me, focus on making things better for the society, for myself, financially, you know, obviously that's a perfect place to be in.
I said, and it just depends on your objective. You know, if your objective is you've got a job, you're building your career, or whatever that is, and you want to clean your own house and things because you've got your job in hand, then so be it. But what I'm saying is, because we're on the business subject, if you are in business, you always have something else to do to build that business.
Yeah.
So be mindful of that when it comes to your brain space.
I think it's a nice idea to think that there's always something better that you can be doing. You know, is there something you've always got to think that, at least, is there something better I can be doing? Is there something more effective I can be doing? Can I be spending my time more efficiently? And I think a lot of the time, if the answer is yes, I think again you need to think about, you know, this is not what I need to be doing. You know, you don't need to be I don't know, cleaning the office. You don't need, you know, you can get somebody. Could you get somebody else to do that? Could you think, you know, can I delegate that? You know, when you're a manager or, you know, a director, that kind of thing, it's all about delegation, isn't it? And you have got to delegate when needed, because there is something, you know, quote, better that you can be doing.
Correct.
Not to say that those tasks, you know, are menial or not important, because obviously they are, but there's something more effective, you know, yourself as that manager, that business leader, that you could be doing.
Yeah. So, and it doesn't matter if you're spending an hour self-developing, so learning things. So you might spend an hour watching YouTube to learn about podcasting and reach and distribution of your podcasts, you know. That's better than hoovering your house up, because that benefits your business. That one doesn't.
I wonder what my mum and dad would think about that.
Yeah.
If I told them that my chores are not going to be being done because I'm podcasting.
Exactly. Your time is best spent podcasting. Yeah.
That's what I'll tell them from now on. I'll say, no, Mum, Dad, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be doing it anymore. I'm podcasting.
Correct.
I tell my boss
Yeah.
at work, I say, boss, no, I'm not coming into work anymore. You can still pay me, but my my time is better spent podcasting, which you know, in the end, you never know. It might turn out to be very successful, but we'll have to see. We'll have
Yeah,
to
but
see.
you know what, Mason? If my kids said that to me, and I could see that my kids were podcasting, not playing a PlayStation game or something, I'd be going, fair play, we need to get someone to clean his room for him. You know, the kid is focused. He's focused on building something.
I wish my mum and dad had the same same thought process as you on that one.
Yeah.
Um,
So
Obviously, I know that you're a very busy man. You got a lot of things to be doing, so I'm sure I can't keep you for too much longer. So
no worries.
in that time, there's a few other little sort of just question and answer I'd like to ask you, if that's okay.
Yeah.
The first one, and people will underestimate the sort of power of it, I think, and the impact that it can have on you. But I think reading can be really important to bettering yourself, or just to relax. And are you reading anything at the moment? And if so, what is it?
No.
You don't read.
No.
You don't read.
I scan the odd page. I've not read a book in my life.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I've got my own personal reasons for that, and I'll share my personal reasons now. That is because I like to discover who I am. I like to experience life and the world. And by reading a book, for me personally, it can tarnish my journey, as in I start becoming like the author, or I start quoting the author instead of being myself. So I like the authenticity of not reading books. I own lots of books and interesting ones, and I might scan the odd page because every now and then, if I want to get into the philosophy kind of mindset or whatever, I might scan a philosophy book, and then my mind switches. So when you understand those triggers and those switches of your own mindset, you use the environment around you to be able to switch it. Yeah. And that's what I do. So
Well, wonderful. That makes perfect sense. I think of myself personally, I hadn't thought about it like that, but you are right. I think I can picture times when I've been reading a book, and then, sort of maybe later that day, I've sort of thought in the way that the author might have. For example, that could be particularly negative if you were reading a book by someone very controversial. For example, I've currently got a book by Piers Morgan, so that could that could turn out to be pretty awful.
Pretty grim. But yeah, it's and there's nothing wrong with it helping yourself. But it's when people read a book and then they sit there and pretend to be something they're not. They will quote the author. Sometimes they'll even say the author's name. So and so says this. Yeah, but that's them saying it. That's not you saying it. And just because they've said it, do you really believe it? And are you living it? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
And obviously, words on a page in a book, can be interpreted in many different ways, and you could pick it up in a way not intended by the author. So, the fact that you're trying to use what they're saying in your own way could be completely a misunderstanding of what they've meant, and in that case, is not doing what you're intending to do at all.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't mean you to murder 10 people. It's just.
Exactly.
But in the self-development world, books are important. It does help a lot of people, I guess. It's just not for me. I do believe in books. I write books, so I believe in the books. It's just not for me. But if you read a book, then read it with purpose and understand what it's actually trying to either tell you, or it spins your mind into lots of different paths. So you're discovering yourself.
Wonderful. And just to let you know, I will be ordering the book that you've released a little while ago. It's the Diary of a Make a Fortune.
Yeah,
I forgot the words.
It's on the website. But if you WhatsApp me, I'll send you a copy. I got copies, so I'll send you one.
Oh, really? Oh, well, thank you very much. That's very kind of you. That's really kind of you.
I don't want people buying it off Amazon because it's the old cover and it's horrible.
Okay.
And the publishers control that account, so I don't do that. So send me your address. I'll get one posted out to you.
Wow, that's really kind of you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that.
No worries.
Okay, I think I'm going to ask you one final question, and it's
Yeah.
it's it's pretty important. I gotta say, it's probably the most important question I've asked you all.
What did I have for
All
Christmas? Yeah.
well, I wasn't going to say that. I was going to say, and this is I think in a lot of podcasts, people have something called a signature question. It's a question that they ask
Yeah.
everyone, and in this case, I think, and like I say, it's of paramount importance that you're honest with this answer.
Yeah.
If you could have one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be and why?
Sunday lunch. I'm a vegetarian. I eat vegan probably 4 or 5 days a week because I enjoy it. So it'll be Sunday lunch without meat. So it's basically a vegetable dinner. And why? I just enjoy the variety of food on the plate, from carrots to sprouts to the cabbage and the potatoes and everything else. So that would be it. Yeah.
Wonderful, and that's coming directly from a very successful businessman. So, listeners, if you're looking for a good meal to have, a Sunday lunch is there for you. A
Yeah,
vegetarian
that's
one at
it.
that. A vegetarian one.
Yeah, no meat.
Do you have Yorkshire puddings with it, or is
Oh
that a
yeah,
no go?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah, got the Yorkshires. Yeah. So it's my son makes the Yorkshire puddings, and he makes awesome Yorkshires, like the proper big.
The homemade ones are better than any I've had before.
Oh man,
Homemade
he does
is the
them.
way to go.
He does them brilliantly. Yeah. So yeah. So that's what I would eat. That's my one meal for the rest of my life.
Wonderful, perfect.
And
Well,
the good thing is, Mason, you can grow it all yourself.
you can indeed, from spuds to sprouts.
Exactly. So you can grow it all yourself. Yeah.
Lovely. Well, Lyndon, thank you very much for coming on today. It's been a real pleasure speaking to you, and hopefully the listeners will have really enjoyed this as well.
Yeah.
Like I say, it is
And
really
you.